This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and there is a huge Wrestling Observer newsletter to review tonight. I don't go over the whole thing. If you want to know all the results and more details of certain places that I'm not that interested in, highly suggest you get it. Otherwise, I'll just give you the points that I find interesting. Tomorrow at 1:30 p.m., I am supposed to be interviewing boxing legend Michael Spinks, by the way. That will be a fan interactive interview, just like the one I did with Mark Kerr last week, Bushwhacker Luke earlier this week. And there could be 2 more live interviews this weekend. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the Hannibal TV and click to get the notifications so you know when they actually go live. Hi to Ralph Vaquero. Hi to Tig and Real Life, who congratulates me on becoming the AEW TNT Champion via default. Thank you. And there is one thing I will say on that before I get into the Observer. Thank you for everyone that's congratulated me, including Billy Graham and Kevin Sullivan and Terry Funk, who have all stated I am the true TNT champion. But I do not have an open challenge, and I do not fight for free. I was a bouncer from 2001 off and on until 2018, when, thank God, this YouTube channel started doing well enough for me to do full-time. But my days of fighting for free are long over. I would fight MMA if the right financial offer was offered to me, but my challenging Cody Rhodes was because he has an open challenge and he is an AEW executive that could have made that happen, but he chose to ignore the 7 legends who endorsed me, all the fans that wanted it, because let's face it, he is the American chicken. So let me get into this news here. Rey Mysterio's new deal with WWE is believed to be 3 years. What's up, Alan? Who says, what's up, champ? His wife probably told Cody he couldn't fight. Funny. Tony Smith tips me $5 and says the only real pro wrestler left. Thank you. I would put Davey Boy Smith Jr., who I'm going to talk about later in this news. He's a real pro wrestler as well. And he is the Hannibal TV heavyweight champion of Great North Wrestling as well. Goldberg has a few years left on his WWE contract. Is for 2 matches a year. He's already had his 2 matches for 2020. He was supposed to wrestle at least once a year in Saudi Arabia, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a Saudi Arabia show happening this year in the end, another one, because of this brutal lockdown situation that's stopped a lot of wrestling, including Great North Wrestling. We only were able to do 1 event this year in PCW Ultra, who I'm now going to be posting more matches of on this channel. I posted Tessa Blanchard versus Jordan Grace earlier today. There's a great Muda match I'm going to post tomorrow, but PCW Ultra got closed down too, and in my opinion, they're the best wrestling company in the United States, indie or otherwise. To be honest, from a booking perspective, a match perspective, a star perspective, the passion of the fans. So I hope to continue working with them as time goes on. And Great North Wrestling's The Blood Hunter is even in PCW Ultra. Maybe we'll see more Great North Wrestling competitors there and more PCW competitors in Great North Wrestling as time goes on. The WWE Network this past week took down a number of Bret Hart documentaries. As far as Canadian viewership, wrestling hasn't cracked any of the top 10 lists for Canadian TV ratings lately, according to The Observer. The Miz and Maryse have a new television show in development. It's going to be a co-produced show with their production company and WWE. There was a deal with, what's her name? I forgot to write her name down. The announcer that's married to John Moxley. She's quit the WWE. Her name will come to me, or someone's going to write it down. I guess she had 2 deals. One working with WWE, where she could quit at any time, and one with Fox that was for a set number of years. But WWE Backstage on Fox got canceled, and that means she was under no obligation to stay employed with WWE. It's believed, yes, Renee Young I'm talking about. Dralcon 45. Thank you. Yes, Renee Young, her last weekend with WWE is going to be this weekend. She could end up in AEW, or she could end up doing real sports. I didn't pay much attention to this because I don't know a lot about Mandy Rose or Sonya Deville. They are WWE performers. But Stalker drove down from South Carolina to the home of Sonya Deville in Lutz, Florida, with the idea of kidnapping her, which he'd been allegedly planning for 8 months. He was arrested, and he's 26 years old. And, Amanda Sacramento, Mandy Rose, was escaped. I don't know how old the guy was, but Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose are roommates, and they both escaped with no harm. The guy that was arrested by county police is not being released on bond or anything. He's going to remain in jail for a while. So happy to know that they survived that. That took place in Lutz, Florida, where I've been. I believe that's where I did my interview with Brian Knobs last year. Oh, the guy's name is Philip A. Thomas. He's 24 years old, and his Twitter account consisted almost exclusively of retweeting Sonya Deville and praising her tweets. He was charged with aggravated stalking, armed burglary of a dwelling, attempted armed kidnapping, and criminal mischief. So that is pretty bad. I agree with Patrick. I don't know who she is, but I know she's under contract. Not sure if it's NXT or WWE. The judge, Catherine Caitlin, ruled that Thomas would remain in jail until his trial. Roberto Bravo tipped me at $4.99. Says excellent content as usual. My Stan Hansen interview was thumbs up. Thank you. He's a great guy. I get along very well with him. Federal authorities are attempting to seize the $1.5 million home of Ted DiBiase Jr. in Madison, Mississippi, due to questionable use of state welfare money. Mississippi State Auditor, Shad White, listed more than $94 million of money was diverted inappropriately to questionable recipients, including jobs for family members, luxury cars, and funding for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase's ministry. It had previously come out that Ted DiBiase Sr.'s Heart of David ministry was given $2,126,739 in federal welfare money intended for the poor. So that is terrible. And I reported a few months ago that Ted DiBiase Sr. was also trying to sell his mansion. When people have cases against them, much like Abdullah the Butcher did in my case, they try and liquidate assets. NXT was unopposed this week, yet they only did a 0.24 rating, but at least they were out of the ones. Raw, with Shawn Michaels returning to television, only did a 0.48. SmackDown did a 0.53. Somebody told me, by the way, related to this Thunderdome, which I did a video of, that it's mostly WWE employees' families that are the fans on the Thunderdome. That's what the rumor is. That's why supposedly they don't have to worry about ladies flashing the cameras or or porn stars trying to get attention by showing themselves off during these Thunderdome shows that I guess they're going to do for the next 2 months, where basically there's live video feeds of people watching wrestling, which just shows you how sad 2020 has become, but I don't blame them for trying something new. I really felt bad for the development wrestlers when they had to pretend to be excited about watching the matches and they didn't have chairs. And supposedly those tapings went on for hours and hours and hours. It seems like the worst job in the world. Have to sit through retakes and all that crap and still act excited. So at least the development wrestlers are back to training now. The Performance Center is back for training. And WWE is back at Full Sail University for NXT. According to Paul Levesque, Triple H, why NXT isn't being taped at the Amway Center is because they have a special deal with Full Sail University, and they're going to be back taping there. And if they were to not run at Full Sail University, it could affect their future relationships there. So even though it would look cooler to have NXT at the Amway Center, they're going to continue doing it at Full Sail University now that the Performance Center is back for training. In AEW news, other than me becoming the unofficial TNT champion, but the real TNT champion, because I exposed Cody Rhodes' open challenge to independent wrestlers as being a fraud. Apparently, according to The Observer, AEW's YouTube numbers are down this week from last week. They did allow 150 fans into their August 12th tapings, and they're going to continue to increase the number of legitimate fans allowed into tapings as time goes on. I guess the next taping, they're going to allow 500. And if that goes well, they'll increase it by 250 every time. Zack Ryder is working on a per-date basis. He's not under a long-term contract with AEW. In New Japan news, no update on them getting a television deal in the U.S. In pro wrestling Noah news, and this is another casualty of the lockdown, and I hate to read this, Rene Dupree and Dr. Wagner Jr. have had to vacate their GHC tag team titles because they can't get back into Japan. So Rene Dupree, who's a great wrestler, I've wrestled him myself. He's beat me once or twice, actually. I think I've beaten him more than he's beat me. But he is a great wrestler. I'll give him that. He's tough. And he hits hard. But he's finally getting like a push with the Japanese company holding titles, and now he can't get back into Japan. So that sucks. As far as All Japan, their company's latest financial report shows that they're operating at only a very small profit. For their last fiscal year, they only made $85,000. However, that was better, as the year before that, they only made $8,000 total. And the year before that, they only made $4,000. So their profits have increased, but they're still under $100,000. Marcus Bagwell, Buff Bagwell, who I have a full shoot with on this channel, and he admittedly was on something, probably pilled up during that interview, but I don't care. You know what? Some people do better interviews high or drunk than sober. I'd rather have a pilled up Buff Bagwell for 2 hours than Carlito for 15 minutes giving one-word answers. Or you have Juventud Guerrero, or however the fuck you say his name. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, to quote The Rock, how you say his name. But he was definitely on weed, alcohol, and seemed to be sniffing a lot during the interview. Disappeared into the bathroom a couple times. He did a horrible interview, and he was on numerous substances. CMLL, speaking of Mexican, I skipped over the Bagwell thing. He was involved in a serious auto accident in Cobb County, Georgia, where, you better watch out or you're going to be serving hard time, as the big boss man used to say. He was driving a black 2013 Chevrolet Tahoe when he lost control of his car, and investigators believe he was driving impaired by prescription medications. The car collided with the center median and metal fence before continuing on the road, facing ongoing traffic. The car then collided with the curb before hitting a freestanding bathroom at the Cobb County Transit bus station. Bagwell was rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. So thank God he didn't kill anybody. He's had so many DWIs. Not even funny. Roberto Bravo says, hopefully Buff gets off the stuff. I actually liked Buff Bagwell. I still like him. But I think he might be a hopeless case. CMLL is going to be running on September 25th, their biggest event of the year at Arena Mexico. It's unknown whether that's going to be in front of fans or not. Xavier, who's a former Ring of Honor champion, died on August 16th at 42 due to mysterious reasons that still have not come out yet. Jeff Cobb did an interview with Wrestling Inc. saying that about signing with the new promotion. He's technically a free agent until whatever group announces that he's signed. So it seems like he's saying he is signed, but whatever group he signed with just hasn't announced that he's signed. He has a good relationship with New Japan, AEW. He has appeared for AEW, I believe. WWE might be interested in him. Who knows? I have not seen much of him. Say What tipped me $5. What's my favorite match I've been in? I said this recently in another interview, and people might be surprised at this, but it was when I had signed my contract before I had failed my medical, but like when I actually thought I was going to WWE, there was two people I really didn't like for very good reasons, and I won't get into this because I got to finish the news, but I knew they wouldn't wrestle me one-on-one because they would be suspicious that I would shoot on them or rough them up. However, I knew both of them were big Abdullah the Butcher fans, so with literally like 2 weeks' notice, I wanted to settle this dispute before I believed I was going to WWE. I wanted to wrap up this unfinished business. So I quickly promoted an event where Abdullah the Butcher was my tag team partner. And this ended up being a historic match because it was Abdullah the Butcher's legitimate last match he ever had in Canada. Him teaming with me against these two, who I literally beat the living crap out of during the match. And because we only promoted it with like 2 weeks and it was literally thrown together, we only had about 100 people in attendance, but they were going absolutely nuts. They were into that match and just popping for absolutely everything. But because it was like, I had planned this out for 2 weeks, and I had planned it out that at the start of the match, I was going to put grappling holds on them. Then I was going to get this chair that I had bought, and I made sure I bought the heaviest, most painful chair and go after them with the chair. Then I was going to chop them, whack them brutally, and just everything went exactly how I had planned it out. And I love how a plan comes into fruition. And I've done this numerous times in wrestling. I've created plans, and I've pulled them off perfectly. So yes, to answer your question, Say What, thank you for the tip again. That was my favorite match, just because it was satisfying, especially when I whacked them with the chair. Like it was beautiful. And if you watch the grappling part, they each legitimately tapped out from my submission holds. But here's the other funny part about the match. The referee randomly came into the match drunk. So he was so confused at the start, I literally had to slap the referee twice because to wake him out of his drunkenness. So it was a very realistic contest, very fun, and I love the fan support. Banderas7331 tips me $5 and said he loved the Conan movie or interview. Sorry, not movie. I'm thinking of this Vampiro movie that's coming out, and Dave Meltzer wrote in the Wrestling Observer this week that Vampiro lies a lot, even for a wrestler, which is saying something. And I have heard Vampiro spin some tales. I don't know him that well, but he definitely exaggerates. Patrick J thinks the Blood Hunter should challenge Cody. You'd have to ask Kevin Sullivan to get him to do that because Kevin Sullivan manages the Blood Hunter. Blaze is his valet. There's a new t-shirt out. If you go to the Great North Wrestling t-shirt store, there's a link at thehannibaltv.com, or it's on YouTube too, our Teesprings store, but there is a new Blood Hunter shirt out. But Cody would not wrestle the Blood Hunter any more than he would wrestle me. First of all, I think the Blood Hunter is more dangerous to me. There's a rumor going around that he may have been the real killer of Chris Benoit. A lot of people say that that's why he wears the mask. But who knows? Who knows if he'll ever come? I think he's in the forests of Puerto Rico now. I think Puerto Rico is on lockdown. You can't fly out of Puerto Rico, which, by the way, speaking of the Blood Hunter, Savio Vega is one of his tag team partners. They know each other from Puerto Rico, and Savio is going to do a live fan interactive shoot interview with me next week. The fight. Now, here's something funny, okay, for all of you guys that love sticking up for Nick Aldis, who hasn't defended the NWA title since January 25th. For all you people that say the NWA title is so valuable and all this, this is in the news today as Chris Knuckles congratulates me on being the TNT champion. Thank you, Chris. Nick Aldis has now been hired as a special correspondent for Fight TV. He's going to be doing interviews with sports stars. So he's the NWA world champion, and he now has a job interviewing sports stars with Fight TV, which, by the way, all this, if you see this, they don't pay. They fucked me over big time. That's why I'm not on Fight TV. I can tell you at least 6 to 8 other people that have been fucked over by Fight TV. They don't actually pay. Maybe if you do pay-per-views with them, you're more likely to get your money, but if you're supplying them content, they'll fuck you over. Keep in mind, okay, Fight TV owes me $400. That's what our dispute is over. They're supposed to be so big. How can they not pay me $400? That's like a minuscule amount, and they're dishonest, and it took like literally the threat of legal action and a formal letter about that for them to finally take my content off of Fight TV, because they are crooks, just like Dustin Rhodes, who likes to steal money. He doesn't have to do it anymore because he's got Tony Khan taking care of him. But when he was doing the indies, he would fuck over independent promoters, demand full pay and not show up. Well, Fight TV gets people to do work for them and doesn't pay. So I have no respect for people that do that. All right, so there's only one bit of MLW news, and this is all about Davey Boy Smith Jr. I already did an update on this from a source of mine. Everybody knows here I'm close with the Hart family. I found out very similar to this, but Davey Boy Smith Jr. actually has been quoted here by the Observer in response to the MLW, who hasn't run an event since March, and it's unknown if they're going to run another show. Apparently, they made some statements in regards to Davey Boy Smith saying that he's sour And Davey Boy Smith says, quote, the main reason why I'm mad at MLW was because they have never told me about serving John Laurinaitis with papers because I was appearing for WWE on the bump prior to going on the show. I was told I was going on to announce my dad's Hall of Fame induction. I told Jared Celeron and Court Bauer I was appearing on the show solely to announce my dad's Hall of Fame induction. Shortly before going on live, one of the producers got word that they were not actually announcing Davey's Hall of Fame induction now, and there was a moment of awkwardness. I think they were debating canceling me because of the cease and desist order that MLW sent that I didn't know about, but then WWE let me still go on ahead anyways. So I had to make up a bunch of stuff on the fly and do some impressions of Fred Blassie and Brett. Actually did pretty good for it being on the fly. When I later spoke to MLW, Court and Jared Celeron, known in wrestling as MSL, they both had given me congratulations about Davey's Hall of Fame induction being long overdue and all that phony bullshit, etc. But at the same time, they said this, they had served John Laurinaitis, of all people, with a cease and desist for a show where I was talking about my dad's Hall of Fame induction. I thought that was really shitty on their part, and they never told me about it. I just found out about it recently. I've been trying to reach Court for weeks about doing Impact, at least for now, and never heard back. He then sent Jared over to me, who is a complete moron, who claimed Court is busy on vacation, who is going on vacation right now during the pandemic. There's basically nowhere to go. Jared was asking if I do any Impact stuff to re-sign a deal, and they were pushing for me to get me to commit to something long-term, which in a time like this, I don't think signing anything long-term, unless it's for a lot of money, which it is not, is a good idea whatsoever. Jared Celeron and Scott D'Amore did talk, and from my understanding, MLW was asking Impact an astronomical number to use me at least for the next few months, which Impact doesn't want to do, because if my deal is up in December and I end up going to WWE anyways, what does Impact really get out of that? I would be interested in doing something with Impact long term if the money was more, but wanted to work there for the time being, get some ring rust off, make some money, and get out of the house. During my time in MLW, I was a model employee for them. I worked hard, never missed any shows, and babysat Teddy Hart until he left. But for them not to run shows now for 6 months and not pay me, but also not allow me to work and make a living isn't right either, because there is no guarantee that they will return again. I've had my lawyer, Tony Rica, who got some workers out of their Lucha Underground deals, try to contract Court and Jared, which took over a week, which during this pandemic, they aren't working, surely more vacation stuff. So why is it taking a week? How is Court on vacation so many times? They are so procrastinating and trying to make a quick buck somehow. Then suddenly Court sends me a text message asking me to tweet and promote the new Fubu TV deal, which means absolute shit, since it's more just an app on your phone, but he hasn't had the decency to return any of my calls or calls from my lawyer. How does that make any sense? Very disappointed in them. End quote. So that is a long mouthful from Harry Smith, Davey Boy Smith Jr., basically saying the exact same thing that I reported on earlier this week here in one of my The Hannibal TV news updates. I believe in all likelihood Harry will go to WWE after his contract ends. I really hope he could wrestle for Great North Wrestling at least one time, but I don't. That's going to depend on the lockdown. At least one more time. But They could use him as a producer. They could use him to build NXT UK around. They could put him on the main roster. Honestly, the way how horrible the booking is on the main rosters, I wish that they would put him in NXT UK and make him the face of NXT UK. They could actually build a legitimate UK brand if they do that, but I don't blame him for not wanting to re-sign with the company that's not running any shows and not paying him. I've heard from other people that work for MLW that they're not getting paid either. So maybe some are, depending on the contracts. I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of MLW wrestlers and talent that are not getting any pay. So whatever. That's the MLW news. Now on to UFC news. I'll take a drink after all that. Stipe Miocic won over Daniel Cormier. Of course, last weekend. He's now a two-time champion and has the most title fight wins in UFC heavyweight history and has been the best heavyweight at the time when the heavyweight division is in good shape. However, the pay-per-view did just over 400,000 buys and is probably going to hit 500,000 buys if you include the non-US, non-ESPN buys. The preliminary card on ESPN only did a 0.29 rating. According to Meltzer, even though that Cormier is one of the best talkers and almost everyone likes him, he only really hit big numbers when he fought John Jones for that feud. Miocic hasn't been a big numbers getter either. His biggest buy rate pay-per-view was the one where CM Punk was on the undercard against Mickey Gall, I guess. And CM Punk probably had all the wrestling fans buying, which basically was just to see him get humiliated in the end. Or he wasn't actually humiliated. He only humiliated wrestlers and wrestling fans by his poor performance. I don't know how anyone could train as long as CM Punk did with the level of coaches that he trained with and still have done as bad as he did in UFC. As far as John Jones, he's vacating the UFC light heavyweight title and is going to focus on heavyweight. Anthony Rumble Johnson has put himself back into the drug testing pool, but it's going to be about 6 months before he can fight. Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades in a heavyweight fight, probably with the winner to receive a title shot next year. It's going to happen November 28th. Donald Cerrone, who many people believe took a dive against Conor McGregor, fights Nico Price on September 19th. Now, I'm not saying he took a dive, but some people are saying that. I'll get into some of your questions here. Chris says Cody prefers to have matches with midgets like Warhorse. Yes, he does. That is for sure. More congratulations on winning the TNT title. Ralph Vaquero says, too bad Cody never accepted. Tweet that to him, how pathetic he is. But I got better things to do with my time. I haven't wrestled since 2018 anyways, the spring of 2018. I was going to come back because it's an open challenge. I had more legends wanting me to do it. I have beaten more famous wrestlers, including pinning AJ Styles twice in one night when he was New Japan champion than anyone else he's faced. Pinned Abdullah the Butcher, his Montreal retirement match. Beat Terry Funk, Too Cold Scorpio, Gangrel, Ricky Banderas, Kamala, Honky Tonk Man, Lanny Poffo. The list goes on and on and on. There's so many I can't even remember all the famous wrestlers I've fought and beat over the years. Al Snow is another one of them. Patrick J says hashtag Cody Fears Hannibal. Maria Davis says congratulations. I'm the champ. I've been the champ anyways. Thank you. Mike Bleasy says Stardust sucks. Cody is a wannabe Triple H, a cheap version at that. Also, he took the open challenge from John Cena. I never saw John Cena do that. I remember Kurt Angle was doing it, but he was doing it against jobbers for a while there. DG says bad. Oh, very funny. People can read that if they want. I won't get into that. Patrick J says Cody fears the Blood Hunter. I don't, as I said, you'd have to talk to Kevin Sullivan about that. I booked the Blood Hunter through Kevin Sullivan. John Wolf says Mandy Rose is hot. Joey says Cody fears Pineapple Pete. I don't know who Pineapple Pete is. Patrick J does not know Sonia Deville. Would I interview Ricky Banderas? Shitty Vlog says there is an interview that I did do with Ricky Banderas. Speaking of Ricky, who I beat for the IWA Puerto Rico Intercontinental title. It's on here. Search up the Hannibal TV, Ricky Banderas, and you'll see it. I would bring him to Great North Wrestling in the future, maybe to fight the Blood Hunter. That might be a good match, actually. That's for sure. He told me he's going to retire in the next 4 years. Travin says, when can we see you wrestle again? I'm not going to wrestle again. I'm sticking with reporting. He liked Triple H versus Kurt Angle for the greatest match of all time. I personally like Macho Man Ric Flair WrestleMania 8 because I was so into it at the time. Sam Lentz says WWE will try anything except booking good wrestling cards or getting heels over. Hello to Maria. Maria is one of our great fans here. PWC 24/7. Do I think Buff blew his own career? Yes. He's not motivated or reliable, unfortunately. Tommy's Garage. Why do I approve comments? Why would I not approve comments? It's my job as a YouTuber to approve and unapprove comments. I probably blocked 600 Cody Rhodes fans this week from commenting just because I literally get 3,000 comments a day on my videos, and the Cody Rhodes fans were spamming my videos, so I just had enough of it. When is this COVID thing going to be over? Ralph is asking. Whenever a vaccine comes out. That's my prediction. Dustin says next time in Buffalo, go to the Anchor Bar for some American wings. I was actually supposed to go to university at Buffalo to wrestle. I regret that I didn't do that. Cody fears Harry. Probably. Harry could kick his ass easily. Sean Wood says more UFO interviews would be dope. Working on it. Barbette says one thing is for sure. Cody Rhodes is not a very good businessman. And that was Billy Graham's comment on that whole feud. He actually posted on Facebook that Cody Rhodes is blind not to see the money in that feud. Any word from Billy Jack Haynes? I heard from a source he's living with a woman in Portland now, but that hasn't been confirmed. I didn't hear that directly from him. So who knows? Hopefully it's true. David says Ricky Steamboat versus Jake was one of his top fives. Did I ever interact with Tiger Ali Singh in IWA Puerto Rico? No, we weren't there at the same time. I was only in IWA in 2005. And then I was in WWC off and on from 2006 to 2008, where I was two-time WWC Tag Team Champions. Mike tipped me $10. Would I interview Corporal Kroschner? Yes, I would, and I want to. Somebody track him down for me, and I will. I've had a lot of requests for him. Would GNW do a cross-promotion with any Japanese companies? Possibly. The main cross-promotion I would like to see is with PCW in the future, if the lockdowns ever allow us to, because I really am a fan of their product. There's no real Japanese companies I like right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Someone is talking to me about a UFO interview. I'd have to look that guy up. Cryptospasm. Would I take an alien-generated vaccine? I don't know. That is a good question. Shitty vlog. The best wrestling school in Canada was Santino's Wrestling School, which went out of business. There is not a single wrestling school in Canada I would recommend right now. Lance Storms is also closed. But thanks again for the $20 tip, Cryptospasm. And I might consider it depending on what we all know. There's allegedly many types of aliens. If they do exist, this has not been confirmed. This is all theoretical and hearsay, but it really would depend on how they would communicate with me and if I would trust them. But I'll be honest, I have zero fear of COVID-19. Everyone that watches me on here knows that. So I wouldn't risk it for that. If there was a more deadly vaccine that was killing healthy people, I'd be more concerned and would possibly consider the alien vaccine. So Michael Spinks, 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. Check in for that. And supposedly I will have another great female professional wrestler on Sunday, and possibly Head Shrinker Samu soon. Click subscribe and click get notifications so you find out about all my live streams. So have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for all your tips and all your questions.